Tune into the Donttap podcast.
You do the process, the tape, the study, the narrative, the script.
And a little bit of a downfall from a champ.
When we're looking at value on the lines,
that definitely, I think, in some of the handicappers I talked to, has influenced the gambling line.
Appreciate that. I'm sorry what I'm gonna have to do to you in this little matchup we got.
thank you. I was going to say, okay, enough niceties. Let's dig in.
He can pressure in the first, he can pressure in the second, and pressure in the third.
I'm Gentleman Josh Hill. I'm Aaron Jeffrey.
I got you.
I'm Mike Malott.
I'm Rafian Scott.
Tune into the Donttap
podcast.
podcast.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
Okay, Donttap podcast. We are back again, UFC 313, and I'm pretty excited for this one. We got Ankalaev. We've been waiting for this one. Ankalaev against Alex Pereira. A lot of people say if Alex wins this one, this is it. He's solidified himself as just one of the best to ever do it. I'm going to dig into some numbers because there's a lot of love for Ankalaev on that one. We'll talk about that fight soon. I'm not going to mince any words. It's me by myself. I have 3 spots. We're going to go 3 rounds. Here we go with round number 1. So with round number 1, we're going to dig into a spot. I'm looking at the Curtis Blaydes Kuniev fight. And initially, I was looking at the Curtis Blaydes side of things because you guys all know I like the level check. I figured it was a level check. The one thing I would look at is Blaydes doesn't take punches well. You know, he has been knocked out multiple times in his career, 4 times to be exact. And yeah, his striking, although it's gotten a lot better, he works behind his jab a lot better than he used to. He's going to have to get into his wrestling with this one as well, too. I just don't know if he can afford getting touched in the face. That being said, Kuniev just isn't at the level, and this could be a huge level check, and he could be rinse, repeat takedowns into a finish as he just melts Kuniev, second round. That being said, so with Curtis Blaydes, let's get into the numbers. 18 of his 23 fights have not gone the distance. That is pretty big. 13 of those 18 no distance fights, 13 of his wins have come via KO. So he's had 13 KO wins, 18 fights that have not gone the distance, and he's had 4 KO losses. So in all those numbers, all I see is violence. Okay. We also have 1 no contest there as well, too. I believe that's a Tom Aspinall. But if we're looking at it, in his last 10 fights, 7 of those fights have not gone the distance. That's more frequent. You want to look at stuff like that. So in his last 10 fights, 7 of his fights have not gone the distance. I just don't know if we're seeing this one go to the scorecards. And the line I'm looking at right now is fight doesn't go the distance at -166. It hasn't moved. And fight ends by KO is -130. If there was more meat on the bone, I would attack that one too. And you'll see why in a minute. Next, we look at Blaydes Kuniev coming off of, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about this guy yet. I don't think he's at the level. I think he does have power in his hands, mix it in with the wrestling. He's got a good dirty box in the cage and will present problems for people. But I just don't know if he's really, I don't think he cracks past the first contract. But if we look at it, 9 of his 16 fights have ended inside the distance. 6 of those are his KOs, and he's also won by sub. So he's won 3 subs, 6 KOs. Okay, here we go. If we look at Blaydes has never been sub before. So if we're looking at Kuniev, I just don't see him being able to sub Blaydes. So if this fight does finish inside the distance, which I'm going to get into some more numbers, I just think that it's likely going to be a KO. But if we look at combined, these 2 guys, their last 10 fights each combined, so 20 fights total between the 2 of them, they have finished inside the distance at a rate of 75%. Total in their careers, if you combine both their careers, they have both finished at a 69% clip. And if we look at -166, that's implied at a 62.5% rate. So for me, I'm just going to attack this one. I'm going to hit it pretty hard. It's probably going to get at least 2 units on this one. And I know it's a time prop. It's a little chalky. I just don't see it going the distance. This is my round number 1. Okay, with round number 2, we're going to go right to a dog play of the week. And I think a lot of people are looking at this fight and fading, including even the books, fading Justin Gaethje based off of how bad that video looked of him being knocked out on the ground against Max Holloway. They're questioning the durability, the years of wars, and all of these things. But if he doesn't get knocked out at the end of that Holloway fight, what is the line? And I get it, okay, but he did. But I don't know if his chin is gone just because of how the optics look in that. I know he got knocked out pretty bad. He's taking a little bit of time off. But he won that. He won the last fight against Fiziev. So in their first fight, you see Fiziev taking just slight edges in the numbers in the first 2 rounds. But, you know, his setup striking isn't going to look as nice as when Gaethje's just throwing big shots. And people, you know, the judges are sitting there going, oh shit. And they're scoring for him, right? The judges are looking at that. They're seeing, you know, it's the optics, it's the damage, it's all of the things. So, you know, you see Gaethje start to just pull away on him in the 3rd round, and the numbers and the volume just starts to accrue, and he wins the volume edge just ever so slightly. The volume numbers were actually 106 to 97, so just ever so slightly edges in there. But the biggest thing was the optics in this, right? The damage was just so bad. It was bad. He looked horrible, man. Like it was a bludgeoning. If this was in the streets, Gaethje's going to jail. So, for me with this one, I just have to side with the dog in this. I just, looking at the surgery, looking at the short notice of Fiziev, he's coming in, he's had an ACL tear, he's had a surgery, and now he's coming in on short notice in a fight where he's already lost, looked bludgeoned and beaten up. And I get it, his striking technique is very high level, but people are betting on his striking technique and setting up a KO on a guy like Justin Gaethje. I just don't know, man. You guys are betting on a lot of fucking fantasy and fairy tale. So for me, I'm going to go with what's happened already. I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje working behind the jab the way he did very nicely in the last fight and landing bigger shots. And you know what? If he doesn't win this fight, but I'm sitting with a plus, I think it's 138 I got it at, I'll take Justin Gaethje at that price tag. I'm sorry. I don't, it doesn't make sense. The line's flipped. It should at least be a pick'em. I get it how you're going to give Fiziev respect still, but I'm going to go with how this fight ended already. Give me Justin Gaethje as a dog. Fuck you guys. Fuck the narrative. We're going to go right to the main event. And for me, I'm looking at the line and it's starting to move a little bit. So I got in, initially started talking about this one at minus 115, got it at minus 120. It's fluctuated a little bit up and down. Now it's at minus 126, and you're going to see big bettors the day up. And the Pereira line is going to move some more. There's a lot of people thinking Ankalaev is going to win this fight. And I get it. He's at the level, and like anybody can win any fight on a given day. But the numbers and the things people are looking at in this fight, it doesn't add up. And let me get into this with you guys. In the main event, we know what Pereira's game plan is going to be. He's going to look to finish him. He's going to look to either take out that leg or knock him out. Plain and simple. He wants to keep it on the feet. He's one of the most devastating strikers there is. And we're going to really give a line like this with his volatility is just crazy. Now, the one thing that people are looking at is the wrestling. Is he going to get taken down? Is this finally the check that we wanted to see? Is this going to be the wrestler that takes him down and owns him? Well, I mean, there's some numbers. He's been taken down already before, and you got to really keep him down, because if you don't, the fight's over, or you're going to lose to optics, right? You're going to lose to big shots and the judges just seeing it hit. Okay, let's get into the numbers with Ankalaev. In the UFC, Ankalaev has landed 10 of 32 takedowns. So he shot 32 times and landed 10 takedowns in his full 14 UFC fights. Next, in the Nikita Krylov fight, Krylov turned him into a little bit of a wrestler, forcing him to actually shoot 9 times, and he accrued over 5+ minutes of control time. So not too bad at all. Then if we look at the Jan Blachowicz fight, with Jan took that leg from him and took his wheel out and really kicked that leg and forced him to shoot 10 times. And when he landed, he actually accrued 11 minutes plus of control time. So this is pretty big, and it's a big number. That's his biggest numbers he's had. So with Ankalaev, the most takedowns he's actually achieved in a fight is 3 takedowns, and the biggest amount of time was against Jan of control time of 11 minutes. Those are very, very significant. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Next, if we look at Alex Pereira on the flip side, I mean, if he stays on the feet, it's not really going to be a good night for Ankalaev, who's more of a point fighter from the outside, who's going to get dusted in that leg's just going to get compromised, and then he's going to come upstairs and finish him off like he does to guys whose legs get compromised. But if we look at it, Alex right now against Jan, he was taken down 3 times of 8 attempts. And Jan did accrue 7 minutes and 32 seconds of control time. In round 3, Alex still had 112 strikes total. And not in round 3, sorry. In 3 total rounds, Alex still had 112 strikes total landed. He wins a split decision. It was a little greasy, but the reality is the optics were there. He was landing bigger shots, getting back to his feet. And I don't see too many of those split decision things happening for Alex ever. Those are like really, really crazy moments. So even if a wrestler holds him down for a period of time, I don't see that happening too much again. I don't see him necessarily going to decision. I see him finishing somebody late. Ankalaev's leg is going to get compromised by the 3rd round if we're going to go to if we're getting to the 3rd round. And it's not going to be Ankalaev setting up a knockout on Pereira. These things can happen, but if you're betting on that, that's just not something that we're seeing. So if we look at it, the takedowns are the thing that have to happen. But if Ankalaev were to actually accrue 13 minutes of control time and 4 takedowns, that's the most he would ever have accrued in the UFC. He's still going to give Alex like 12 minutes on the feet to take his leg, to take his soul, and to take that belt and go home, or keep touring around the world and talking to everybody, because you guys are all worried about the narrative of him not training. That's just narrative bullshit. Once again, don't buy into that stuff. The reality of the fact is, we got Alex Pereira at it's a steal. It's an absolute steal. The numbers don't lie. The last number I will tell you, you're worried about Alex getting taken down. You know he's going to have maybe around 12 minutes on the feet in that total 5-round fight, if it goes full 5 rounds. He probably wins optics. And then if you look at it, are you worried about a submission from Ankalaev? Are you really worried about a submission from Ankalaev? He has never attempted a submission in the UFC. He has never landed a submission in the UFC. He has never sniffed at a fucking submission in the UFC. He lets his gi at home. So Ankalaev's not going for submission. Even if he gets takedowns, they ain't going to be worth shit. And Alex is going to either knock him out or win a big decision. Alex Pereira, and still raise that motherfucking hand, put that belt around my waist. Ladies and gentlemen, Donttap podcast. 3 spots, 3 rounds. If you put them all together, you're looking at a plus 640 on some books. So you'll see it in the reel. The number will be there. Guys, just to recap quickly, we're looking at Curtis Blaydes and Blaydes Kuniev to not go the distance at minus 166. We're looking at Justin Gaethje at, I think it's in about plus 134 right now, dog money. That's round number 2. Round number 3, we are going to go with Alex Pereira in the main event, because he's just going to keep it on the feet, even if it's for 12 minutes, because I've worked out the stats to show you, even if it's half the fight roughly that he's on the feet, it's over. Give me that money. That money line is just sweet at minus 126 still. UFC 313, bam, Donttap podcast in the books. We out.
Tune into the Donttap podcast. Donttap podcast.
You give the process, the tape, the study, the narrative, the script.
A little bit of a downfall from a champ.
When we're looking at value on the lines,
That definitely, I think, in some of the handicappers I talked to, has influenced the gambling line.
Appreciate that. I'm sorry what I'm gonna have to do to you in this little matchup we got.
Thank
going
you.
on, but-
I was going to say, okay, enough niceties. Let's dig in.
He can pressure in the first, and he can pressure in the second, and pressure in the third.
I'm Gentleman Josh Hill. I'm Aaron Jeffrey. I'm Mike Malott. I'm Rafi Assad. Tune into the Donttap podcast. Donttap podcast.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.